Everything that you thought had meaning, every hope, dream, or moment of happiness, none of it matters as you lie bleeding out on the battlefield.
Pikachu, I choose you!
Bobby Click is your 2016 video game world champion.
It's not over. I won't give up!
The first medal for the American women since 2006.
I always lose. My kindness never saved me. No.
You alright?
I hate myself!
Remember when you'd get home from school and your mom would ask if you finished your homework? You'd say yes. Then you'd spend the next 4 hours getting absolutely dumpstered by Cynthia's Garchomp. Cynthia. No. Please. God. No. You genuinely believe you were going to beat her this time. You never did. It didn't matter. You were 8. Sinnoh was in the palm of your hand. Life was fine. Yeah, me too. But somewhere along the way, life stopped feeling like that. I was never good at competitive. I never actually caught them all. Still really enjoyed playing the games though. Until one day I didn't. And I don't just mean it in the whole growing up sucks way, because plenty of things about being an adult are fine. I love paying tax. I love knowing what an ARR is. I love the fact that Snorlax is basically what my back feels like every morning. Great stuff. What I mean is that Route 1 doesn't hit anymore. You boot up the new game, catch 3 Bidoof, evolve them, sell the pearls, close the switch, wondering when this became a job. It all started with a question. Are you happy? There's a name for what happened to you. The internet has been calling it fun maxing for about 2 years now, ever since a 20-year-old figure skater named Alyssa Liu came back from retirement and won a world championship by literally saying, out loud, that she was only there to have fun. I started believing that too, until I put Pokemon Red back in an original Game Boy. Turns out this franchise about a 10-year-old with a rat somehow understands something most people don't. What even is happiness? Why don't we feel it? There are 4 pieces to that puzzle, ending with one of the strangest scenes ever put in a game meant for children. It all starts in Pallet Town. Piece 1. Up until this point in your life, you'd been perfect. Not perfect at things, obviously. You lost at every Mario Party, you were mid at football, you couldn't do long division, but you were perfect at being a kid, which means you didn't know that being a kid was the best thing that would ever happen to you. Then Professor Oak handed you a Pokeball, you walked out of Pallet Town, you stepped into the tall grass, and a Rattata jumped out. You didn't know what a Rattata was. You didn't know Charmander was double weak to Rock and that Brock was about to end your entire journey. Psychic was broken, Wrap was a lock move, Missingno existed. Snorlax was blocking Route 12 for a reason. Under the truck by the SS Anne, there was nothing at all. You especially didn't know that. Nobody knew that. You just played. It was the most fun anyone has ever had in the history of playing anything. Not because Pokemon Red was designed for maximum fun. Pokemon Red was actually kind of a rough game. The special stat was a mess. Psychic types had no counter. You could catch Missingno by talking to a specific old man in Viridian and doing a very specific bike ride, and it would corrupt your save file. Route 1 was fun because you were completely inside it, not because the game was designed to make you comfortable. If Route 1 had been designed to make you comfortable, you would have been catching Mewtwo in the tall grass. Instead, you were catching a Rattata that used Tackle 3 times and fainted, and it was electric. Now, at some point in the last 5 years, an idea started spreading online that summarizes basically everything Alyssa Liu supposedly stands for. And I genuinely don't know how a franchise from 1996 has scarily similar parallels to a 20-year-old figure skater's life. But it does. And weirdly enough, it also exposes the biggest problem with how people today view Alyssa's outlook. But as I was doing my research, and yes, I do my research, thank you very much, I realized something. Sponsor break insert sponsor read here. Suggested tone. Irreverent, self-aware, tie back to Pokemon somehow. Example angle. Speaking of things that connect people across regions. Anyway, what does any of this have to do with why you're not happy? I was getting to that. In 2019, Alyssa Liu was a teenage prodigy who won pretty much everything. If you follow competitive Pokemon, or even just watched Aaron Jung grind VGC for a decade, you know there's this whole grind set mentality where you're supposed to suffer to achieve greatness. When you're competing against the best of the best, you have to be perfect. Fast forward a little bit and Alyssa Liu was gone. No more trophies, no more competitions, no more training. There were so many days I would show up to the rink and just start uncontrollably crying, and I felt like I was doing it against my own will. 2 years later, she was back, with the sole goal of having as much fun as possible. She skated because she loved it, not because she had to. This mindset exploded into the whole fun maxing trend. As much as I do think there's real value in fun maxing, let's just say Alyssa's actual outlook is all of this, and the internet, being the internet, only focused on this. Because that isn't what she said. It isn't saying don't put in any effort. That would be stupid. It's asking, what is that effort powered by? Is it your ambition or someone else's? Borrowed fuel runs out. This is what Route 1 was trying to tell you. None of this means winning doesn't matter. Obviously it does. Wolf Glick would like a word. Achievements matter. Effort matters. Elite Four sweeps matter. But none of it means much if you lose yourself in the process. Same lesson from every anime you've watched, from Ash Greninja to Ash Pikachu at the Alola League. You're built on the small things you do every day, and the end results are a byproduct of that. Sweet as that is, it's only half the truth. What Alyssa actually teaches us is that the process is only meaningful if it belongs to you in the first place. That was the point of Route 1. You started as this bright-eyed protagonist after your first loss to Blue on the SS, and you felt like you needed to become the strongest trainer in Kanto to prove something. But why? What are you doing this for? You're still catching, still training, still walking. So why does it stop feeling good? Because at some point, the things we love become burdens the moment they stop feeling like something we choose and start feeling like something we owe. Wolf Glick understood this when it came to other players. He would talk about it in interviews. He didn't apply it to himself for years. Is that being a hypocrite? Yeah. But sometimes a hypocrite is just someone in the process of changing. Now, this change isn't instantaneous. You end up going back to Pallet Town. Your mom heals your Pokemon for free. She always did. She never asked what you were doing out there. She never asked if you were happy. She just healed the team and said good luck. And it's only when you sit on the floor of your bedroom with your old Game Boy and remember why you started that you actually feel it again. Everyone told you Pokemon was a game about being the champion. You, at 8, always saw it as a way to have fun. Your strength came as a byproduct of that. Eventually, you get up, throw the Game Boy in your bag, go outside. The first battle you fight is against a level 4 Pidgey in the tall grass. It's the best battle of your life. I have never met anyone with less at stake and more joy than a 9-year-old fighting Pidgeys. Plot armor? He has none. It's just a Pidgey, but at least he's playing to have fun again. So I guess there's that. Except this realization ends up doing more harm than good, both to you and to anyone that follows this whole fun maxing philosophy, which I think leads a lot of people down the wrong path because of how everyone keeps misinterpreting it. To understand that, we need to keep going. Because right after Route 1, the game does something genuinely evil. It takes you to a town where everyone is crying. So if the first piece of the puzzle is fun, the second is something much darker. And it takes us to what is probably the last town you'd ever expect in a video about happiness. Piece 2. Lavender Town. If you played Red, Blue, or Yellow when they came out, you already know what happens here. If you didn't, I need you to understand. Lavender Town is a graveyard. Specifically, a graveyard for Pokemon. And the reason it exists in the game is because Blue killed his Raticate. Now technically the game does not explicitly say this. What the game says is that on the SSN, you fight Blue, Blue has Eradicate, you do damage, you arrive in Lavender Town. Blue is at the top of Pokemon Tower. His Raticate is gone from his party for the rest of the game. There is a ghost blocking the tower that you cannot identify without the Sylph Scope, which, when you obtain, reveals it to be a Marowak, killed by Team Rocket, whose child, a Cubone, is somewhere in Lavender Town crying because his mother is dead. The whole town is a room built inside the game specifically to teach you that Pokemon can die. It is placed in the exact middle of the map. You literally cannot progress without walking through it. This was on purpose. Game Freak, in 1996, decided that halfway through your first Pokemon experience, they were going to sit you down and show you what caring about a Pokemon actually costs. I remember this town messing with me as a kid. I remember the music. That music got so many players. There's an entire urban legend called Lavender Town Syndrome about kids in Japan supposedly getting sick from hearing it, which isn't real, probably. But the fact that we all half believe it is, the whole thing. That town felt wrong on purpose. It felt like the game was telling you something you weren't ready for. Here's where the second piece of the puzzle lives. Everyone who talks about the fun maxing version of Alyssa Liu skips this part. She didn't just come back and skate for fun. She came back and worked, trained, entered competitions. showed up every day to a rink and did the thing. The reason her comeback story is powerful isn't that she stopped caring, it's that she started caring about a different thing. She stopped caring about being the best in America and started caring about being a person who skates. Those sound similar, they're wildly different. Wolf Glick did the same thing. Stepping back from competitive didn't mean he stopped putting in effort. He put in more effort, built a YouTube presence, learned editing, talked to a camera in his kitchen for hours. He grinded, in the most literal sense, on something that belonged to him. He wasn't training to beat Aaron Zheng anymore. He was making videos where he uses 6 Pokemon that share the same body part and calling it a masterpiece, building a shared world instead of a scoreboard. There's a really useful question here, and I want to actually give it to you because it's helped me a lot. What would get you out of bed in the morning if it wasn't for work? Not what would you do if you were rich, not what would you do on vacation. What would you actually drag yourself out of bed to do on a random Tuesday if nobody was paying you and nobody was watching? If your answer is nothing, that is a real problem, and I say that with love. Everyone had an answer to that question when they were 9. You would get up at 6 a.m. on a Saturday to play Pokemon Silver before your parents woke up, sneak your Game Boy Advance under the desk during math class, set a mental alarm during dinner because there was a Ditto in Cerulean Cave you hadn't caught yet. That kid did not need to be motivated. That kid was already the most dedicated person in the room, and that kid is still in you, somewhere. He just got outvoted by your Google Calendar. I know this is starting to sound like a self-help book. I promise I'm going somewhere with it. Stay with me. Dedication is not about how many hours you put in. Dedication is about whether the thing you're putting hours into is yours. Blue's Raticate died because Blue was grinding for someone else's approval. Whose? We don't fully know. His grandfather's, probably. Professor Oak spent the entire game forgetting Blue's name and asking about you. That's Blue's whole arc. He lost his Raticate. You still have your Squirtle. Not a coincidence. That's dedication. The other thing this makes me think of is Ash releasing Butterfree, Ash's first evolution, his first real Pokemon. There's an episode called Bye Bye Butterfree where Butterfree finds a pink Butterfree. It's mating season, and after the whole tragically drawn out romance beat, Butterfree flies off. Ash stands there, waving, crying, letting his best friend go. That's what dedication actually looks like. Not grinding until you break, not the process is the point. Dedication is standing on a cliff, waving to something you love because you love it enough to know it isn't yours to keep. Ash keeps doing this. He releases Charizard at Charcific Valley, releases Pidgeot, releases Lapras, builds a whole career on being the one who lets go so his Pokemon can become who they're meant to be, and that's why he wins. So if the first piece is fun, and the second is dedication, then the third piece takes us to a room that 90% of players walked past without noticing, which introduces a character that is the direct antithesis of Alyssa Liu. It starts with a staircase inside every single Pokemon Center in Kanto. Piece 3, the Cable Club. If you played Red, Blue, or Yellow, you passed through a Pokemon Center dozens of times, healed, saved, bought potions, and every single time there was a staircase going up. On the second floor was a room called the Cable Club. Unless you had a friend with a Game Boy and a link cable, that room was empty, forever. You would go up there, see 2 operators sitting behind a counter, try to talk to them. They would tell you no Game Boy was connected. You would leave, and you would feel weird about it, because you knew, somehow, you were missing something. Pokemon Red and Blue were designed, from day one, to be incomplete without another person. There are 151 Pokemon. If you own Red, you can catch about 124 of them. To get the other 27, you have to trade with someone who owns Blue. 9 of them, including Machamp, Gengar, Golem, and Alakazam, cannot be obtained at all without trading. They physically will not appear in your game, meaning the promise of the tagline, "Gotta catch 'em all," was by design impossible to fulfill alone. You had to have a friend. That was the whole thing, that was the marketing tagline, and it was a lie you couldn't fulfill without another human being. Which brings us to who I'm about to talk about. I'm gonna be real, you're not gonna like this. The character I'm about to bring in is technically Blue. Blue is the direct antithesis of Alyssa Liu. He is a grinder, a winner, a mean little kid who insulted his own Raticate, the guy who got to the Elite Four before you did, the champion for approximately 3 seconds before you take his title, and he is unhappy the entire game. That's Blue's whole thing. He is Alyssa Liu at 19, before the break. He is what happens when you win everything and it means nothing. Now, if I were making the point most people expect, I would say piece 3 is friendship. I could get there. Tell you that Ash met Brock and Misty and Pikachu, and that they were his friends, and that friends are what matter, and roll credits for Bloody Brock. Could you imagine if I actually said that? But friendship isn't the third piece. It isn't what makes any of this hit. Friendship is two people. What Pokemon does, what it has done to an entire generation, is bigger than two people. If you grew up in the red-blue era, you know what I mean. Kids started bringing their Game Boys to school. Kids started asking who had blue and who had red. Kids started organizing trades on the school bus, at recess, at lunch, in whispered exchanges under the desk. There was a specific chaos that took place at 3:15 p.m. every day for about 6 years. In every schoolyard in America, somebody had a Machoke, someone else had a Haunter, someone brought a link cable, batteries died, deals were struck. Trust was invented, right there. You had a shared world, not because you were friends, because you were pointed the same way. And there is a very important difference between those two. Connection isn't friendship. Connection is the specific feeling of being oriented in the same direction as another person. You and them pointed at the same thing. Every kid at your school playing Pokemon at the same time. Every trainer at a Pokemon Center bench trading. Every person outside a Central Park McDonald's in the summer of 2016 running toward a Snorlax. Pokemon Go, that summer, briefly, made an entire planet point the same way. Do you remember that summer? Grown adults in suits walking into fountains because there was a Snorlax at the Lincoln Memorial? One of the last collective experiences the culture ever had. 80 million people pointed the same way at the same time. At a Pokemon. That's not marketing. That's neurology. Pokemon Red and Blue invented this in 1996. By putting a cable port on a Game Boy, that was the whole architecture. One port. A decade of shared childhood came out of it. Which is where Wolf Glick comes back in. When he stepped away from competitive, one of the things he talked about publicly was how lonely the top of the scene actually was. When you're the best, you're surrounded by people who want to be you, or want to beat you, or want to interview you. That's not connection, that's proximity. His pivot to YouTube wasn't just about doing something fun, it was about being pointed the same way as other Pokemon fans again. Watch any of his videos and there is this very specific warmth to how he talks to the audience. He's not performing at them. He's trading with them. He's in the cable club. That's why so many of us feel weirdly alone right now, even though we have never had more people to talk to. Talking to people is not the same as being pointed the same way as them. The internet is really good at helping you talk to people. It is terrible at pointing you the same way, which is what Pokemon Red and Blue did that no game since has fully done. It gave a generation of kids other people, even the ones they didn't know, even the ones they never spoke to. When we grew up, we didn't just lose the game, we lost the shared direction. Now, here's a scene most people forget. It's from Pokemon Origins, which, if you don't know, is a short anime that came out in 2013 and retells Red and Blue basically shot for shot. In the final episode, Red beats Blue for the championship, gets his trophy, walks up to Mount Silver alone, stands at the top with his Charizard, and looks out over Kanto. There's a montage of every trainer he ever met, every gym leader, every rival, every Pokemon Center nurse, every kid he traded with in the cable club. You realize the whole journey wasn't the point. The shared world was, that scene took me out for about a week the first time I saw it. Same thing McQueen figures out in Cars. I know, we're talking about Pokemon, but hear me out. When McQueen starts Cars, he says speed. I am speed. Which is obviously him getting in the zone before a race, the way any athlete would. It's also the loneliest sentence in the movie, because if you strip that away from him, what's left? Just a car alone in a dark trailer repeating who he is. Without the performance, he doesn't know who he is. That's Blue. That's Blue in Red and Blue. Take his rank away, take his rival away, and what's left? A kid who insulted his own Raticate. That's Alyssa at 19, that's Wolf Glick at the top of the ladder, that's every one of us who tied our identity to a scoreboard and forgot that Route 1 was ever the point. Red doesn't do that. Red just walks to Mount Silver, gives his trophy to nobody, climbs the mountain because there's another trainer up there waiting to fight, and he wants to fight them. That's it. He's the least lonely character in Pokemon because he doesn't need the performance, he just needs the game. If connection is the third piece, this is where you should already feel like the puzzle is coming together. Fun, dedication, connection, that should be enough, right? You'd think, except no. If connection alone was enough, Why did so many of us still lose that spark we had when we were kids? The sad truth is, somewhere along the way, the things we loved stopped feeling like something we could disappear into and started feeling like things we had to be good at. There's actually one final piece to this puzzle we've been building. The answer is in a cave nobody talks about. At the end of a game most people never fully finished, with a Pokemon that has no dialogue. Piece 4. Cerulean Cave. Mewtwo is the strongest Pokemon in Red and Blue. That is a fact. He's also the last Pokemon you can catch in the game. He's standing at the bottom of a cave in Cerulean City that is locked until you become the Pokemon League champion. Meaning, the only person allowed to catch Mewtwo is somebody who has already caught everything else. Somebody who has finished the game. Somebody who has, technically, won. When you get down to him, he is alone, not guarded. No boss fight before him, no cutscene, just Mewtwo. Level 70. Waiting. You throw an Ultra Ball, it doesn't work. Throw another. Doesn't work. Throw another. Throw another. Somewhere between the 5th and the 31st Ultra Ball, you catch him. Then you leave. That's the whole encounter. Game Freak did not write a single line of dialogue for him. He's described in the Pokédex as a Pokemon created by scientists through cloning, which had its most savage instincts amplified. He is the only Pokemon in the game engineered to be a weapon. He's the strongest one. There is no narrative payoff for catching him. You just have him now. The game ends. You sit there, which is where I need to tell you about Fuji. If you explored Cinnabar Mansion and you read every single logbook on every single floor, you know this story. If you didn't, here it is. Mewtwo, in Red and Blue, is a weapon that was engineered from love. Mewtwo is a clone of Mew, and Mew was cloned by a scientist named Fuji, who was trying to bring his dead daughter back. Fuji's daughter Amber had died. He couldn't accept it, so he cloned her consciousness. He cloned 4 Pokemon to keep her company: a Charmander, a Squirtle, a Bulbasaur, a Pikachu. All of them died. Amber's clone consciousness faded. Out of that failed grief experiment, Mewtwo was created. Mewtwo, the strongest Pokemon in the original game, exists because a father could not accept that his daughter was gone. You spent your entire childhood catching Mewtwo without knowing this. Fuji is the same Fuji you rescued in Lavender Town, the old man in Pokemon Tower who lost his Marowak. He's the guy. He also lost his daughter. He also cloned a god. Nobody tells you this. It's in the game. It's just in the game. You have to read to find it. Game Freak counted on most kids not reading, which is arguably the darkest thing Game Freak has ever done. Now I know I told you we were going to talk about Red, Blue, and Yellow. Technically, we still are. The story I'm about to tell you comes from a different Pokemon game, and I promise it maps onto Mewtwo exactly, and by the end of this, it will all click. Bear with me. 3,000 years ago, in Kalos, there was a king named AZ. He was very tall. He was in love with a small flower Pokemon named Floette. I want to be really honest with you, when I first heard this story, I thought it was going to be some corny throwaway side quest. Then I actually played it, and I was not okay for about a week afterward. Kalos was at war. The war killed millions of humans and millions of Pokemon. Floette died in the war. AZ, who was the king, and could presumably have done anything else, decided that he would bring Floette back. So he built a weapon. A specific weapon. The ultimate weapon, which the game just calls that because subtlety is not a Kalos value. He used it to resurrect Floette. Then, in his grief, he used it again to end the war. By killing every remaining Pokemon that had died fighting on both sides, AZ committed a mass extinction because he couldn't bear the thought that his Floette had died and other people's Pokemon hadn't. Floette watched him do this. Floette left him. The same weapon that resurrected Floette also cursed AZ with immortality. So AZ, who is now unable to die, walks the earth for 3,000 years, alone, looking for Floette, never finding her, until you meet him in Lumiose City. He's just walking around, enormous, tired, talks to you like he has been waiting 3,000 years to say something and finally has an audience. At the end of the game, after all the credits, Floette comes back to him. She had been watching him this whole time. She had waited. AZ says in French, "Je t'aime, I love you." A 3,000-year-old man reunites with a flower Pokemon, and it is genuinely one of the most beautiful scenes in gaming history. Fuji and AZ are the same character. Both are consequences of loving someone so much that you tried to reverse their death. Both created weapons capable of destroying the world. Both exist inside Pokemon games marketed to children. Game Freak has been telling you the same thing since 1996 and you are not listening. Loving something deeply does not make you happy. Loving something deeply hurts. Fuji loved Amber so much that losing her broke him. AZ loved Floette so much that losing her broke him. Their suffering is not the price of their love. Their suffering is the proof of their love. If it hadn't hurt, it wouldn't have been real. Which is what the internet gets wrong about Alyssa Liu. She didn't come back to skating because she stopped being willing to suffer for it. She came back because she was finally willing to suffer for it again. On her own terms, for her own reasons. That is not fun maxing. That is choosing what to suffer for. It looks like fun from the outside because she's smiling. The internet wants it to be about vibes. It is not about vibes. It is about the specific privilege of choosing which pain you get to carry. I don't think the pinnacle of life's goal is happiness. The point of loving something deeply isn't that it makes you happy. It's that it makes you feel alive enough to endure the pain that comes with actually caring. The things that matter most to us are rarely painless. If anything, they hurt because they matter. Losing hurts. Failing hurts. Having passion hurts. That pain isn't proof that something has gone wrong. Most of the time, it's proof that what you feel is real. Fun is important. Joy is important. If all you ever chase is comfort though, you'll water down your passion into something too safe to ever change you. Who the hell wants to stay the same? Ash isn't great because Pokemon makes him happy. He's great because he throws himself into it completely, willing to care so much that losing destroys him. And it did. When he lost the Kalos League to Alan, it broke something in him. He decided, for a while, to become someone who didn't care about losing and only battled for fun. Then, journeys happened. Because even something as stupid as a game about a boy with a rat can be a place where fun, dedication, connection, and suffering all crash into each other. You've probably already realized it. This video was never about Pokemon. It was never even about being happy. How could it be? We're capable of experiencing so much. Joy, struggle, frustration, obsession, heartbreak, beauty, grief. Why would we ever limit ourselves to just one? These things aren't in the way of a good life. They are a good life, which is why the real gift of loving something deeply isn't that it brings you joy, it's that it makes you feel alive. If what you're doing only ever brings you joy, it probably doesn't reach deep enough. Why Ash never ages, which finally gets us to the theory. There's a very popular fan theory that Ash never ages because he is in a coma. The theory is that Ash was struck by lightning in the first episode when Pikachu shocked him, or he was hit by a flock of Spearow, and everything since then has been a dying dream. Cool theory, not right. Another theory says Ho-Oh blessed Ash at the end of episode 1 and granted him eternal youth. Fine. Also not right. Not the way I mean it. Ash Ketchum does not age because Ash Ketchum is not a character. Ash is a mirror. He is the piece of you that still believes the journey is worth it. He doesn't age because if he aged, the show would become about something else. It would become about compromise, and the calendar, and whether it makes sense to keep going. The show cannot become about that. If it did, you would stop watching. Not because you got bored, because you would see yourself. Ash never ages because Ash is the version of you that still plays, which is why he had to win, why they finally, after 25 years, let him win. In 2022, Ash Ketchum became the world champion. And the internet cried, all at once, everywhere. Grown men in their 30s. Wolf Glick literally reacted to it live on stream and started crying. Most of them couldn't explain why. It wasn't because a fictional 10-year-old beat Leon in a fictional tournament. It was because the piece of us that still plays finally got the win we needed him to get. The season after that, he retired. The mirror was done showing us what we needed to see. Fun, dedication, connection, suffering. All four pointed at the same thing. Ash has all four. Fuji had all four and it destroyed him, but he had them. AZ had all four and it cursed him for 3,000 years, but he had them. You, right now, watching this, probably have less than 4, which is why nothing hits the same anymore. I don't have a clean fix for that. I'm not going to sell you a course. I'm not going to tell you to journal. Here's what I actually think. Most of us lost this because at some point in our early 20s, we made a very reasonable, very rational decision to stop caring so much. It was reasonable because caring hurt. It was rational because caring didn't pay. We told ourselves we were being adults. What we actually did was quietly hand in our Pokedex. You do not have to catch them all. You never had to catch them all. You have to catch something. Pick a thing and let it hurt you. Be devoted to something that other people are also devoted to. Put in the work even when it doesn't feel good, because the process belongs to you. Have fun. Not fun maxing fun. Route 1 fun. Presents. It doesn't have to be Pokemon. Can be anything. Just has to be a thing you love enough to be broken by. The alternative is being alive but not really being alive, which is a much longer coma than anything Ash was ever in. The problem with fun maxing is that the internet twisted it into being about minimizing pain. That was never Alyssa's point. It was about finding something worth struggling for. Something worth losing and coming back to. Something that makes your time on this planet feel real. Never about feeling happy. About feeling alive. What a privilege it is to suffer for a reason only you understand. You are still, somewhere in you, that 8-year-old who stayed up too late throwing Ultra Balls at a Mewtwo who wouldn't get in the ball. Throw the ball again. This isn't the only genuinely life-changing thing Pokemon secretly taught us. If you want to know what the other one is, click the video on the left. Thanks for watching.